Welcome to the Say Hello to Your Therapist podcast. I'm excited to say hello to Dr. Monika Sharma. She helps professionals, caregivers, and single women move from burnout to balance through therapy, hypnosis, and coaching. In our conversation, we talk about her journey to becoming a psychologist, behind the scenes work in running a practice, and what hypnosis is, including what it actually looks like when you do it. Just as a reminder, this conversation represents the views of the speakers and does not replace advice from your own mental health and medical professionals who you have a relationship with. I hope you enjoy our conversation. Welcome, Monika.
You.
Well, why don't you tell me a little bit about what made you want to become a therapist?
Sure. So I have been a psychologist now for, it's been like 25 years. In this work, I first became interested in psychology back when I was in high school, and I took an intro to psych class, high school level. Something I hadn't had too much exposure to before, but being a teenager and always feeling misunderstood, I'm going to be the person who's going to go and help and understand these kids. Being of South Asian descent, my parents, all of our friends group who are in the South Asian community, is all about being a doctor. So that's the route I initially started to take because everyone wanted to do psychology. Why don't you go into psychiatry? And it wasn't speaking to me. I did eventually decide after taking a couple of years off after college to go into psychology and not pursue medical school. And it speaks to just my interests, how I enjoy getting to know people. The thing is that my brother, he's a year and a half younger than me, and obviously differences in age, differences in gender, but we couldn't be more different from each other. Always really interested me, like, how are we so different? Yeah, so I think partly pursuing psychology to understand a bit about also some of the family dynamics and us.
Curiosity and family really was driving it a lot, it sounds like. I am really interested to see how many people I speak to want to think about the medical field first, even if family expectations were steering you in one direction. But if people are pulled to be in a helping profession in general, and because I started out wanting to be a nurse and then was like, no, I want the relationship with the people,
That's what it is. I mean, I felt like medicine, especially back at that time, was very much about body parts and symptoms and things like that. It just felt so reductionist. And I was just, what makes you, you?
The essence of a person. And how has that translated into your work? What makes you you in the work that you do now?
Yeah. I mean, my path has been just very zigzaggy. I'm sure many people, it's like you have life experiences and then you get informed by that. And then for me, I would gravitate toward wanting to read about things just to help me. I'm really interested in being able to pass some of this learning and lived experience as well. So initially, I was more interested in just the different family dynamics. I also, in graduate school, became interested more in my self-cultural heritage, growing up at a time where, it wasn't really recognized as much. And so that the goal was blend in. And so going to graduate school really helped me to see how important that was for me. And so I started getting more interested in that. I also was interested, so it's a South Asian culture at this time, it's in the early 2000s. There's so much stigma. And so people wouldn't go seek help for different things that they were going through that were emotionally difficult, but they would go see the doctor for things, for
headaches.
Things like, exactly. And that. And so I started getting interested in the holistic approach to working with people and mental health and the lifestyle. I took a certification course through the Institute of Integrated Nutrition, which was also on a personal note. I'd gone through like some of my kind of a dark period myself, and I was depressed, but not, again, I was also pushing it away and denying that that's what it was.
Right.
Can I get things done? Why can't I focus? Well, anyway, I did end up finally taking some antidepressant, but I wasn't comfortable with it. So here I am working with people who are going through some mental health challenges and emotional things, but I personally was not even acknowledging it for myself because the stigma was high. And I was really interested in going into and getting the certification in holistic health counseling. I did that. I did get off medication, saw how much of it was a lifestyle thing. However, I think more than anything, there's a few times in my life I can recall that I felt like I was not doing what logically made sense,
Mm.
but or something was like a more sort of pull of like the spirit, I guess. And
Yeah.
so taking this course, I was in debt at the time, and everyone is like, "You have to go to New York City. Why would you do that? It's going to cost so much money, and this course costs so much money. Why don't
Mm.
you pay? Why don't you find something local? Don't be
Mhm.
impulsive." So none of it on a logical, rational way makes.
Yeah.
But there was something I couldn't ignore.
You're
I
like, I
just
need to do this.
pulled out my credit
Yeah.
card. I put it on there, and it was interesting because every plane ticket to New York City, the first and last were $125 at that time. Round
Mm.
the second through ninth were $98 round trip, all fees included, taxes, everything. Well, this is back in
Yeah.
2006. I know, and even for that time period, it was like ridiculously inexpensive.
Mhm.
This is on American Airlines. Once I made this decision, just parted, and made it
Wow.
really easy for me. And
Yeah.
so big lesson I learned from that was to listen to my gut. It's not about necessarily what looks good on paper, and what something else was like calling to me. And as soon as I walked
Mhm.
into the first day of class, I was like, this is exactly where I need to be right now. Like everything
Yes.
lit up in me, and it was learning to trust myself.
I love that.
Probably one of the biggest takeaways time
Mm.
period.
I
I
love
know,
stories.
well, we'll segue into something that we'll be talking about later,
Mhm.
health course. And
Yeah.
so we also learn not just about nutrition, but we did learn about things like oppression,
Mm.
different lifestyle behaviors like sleep, our
Yeah.
movement. What does that mean for the planet? And one of the
Mm.
topics was on our philosophies about life and death. And it was a very globally representative class. So they
Yeah, this was holistic.
it's really about what's going to work best for the client. So I
Mhm.
wrote this lecture about life and death, and, being raised, my parents were Hindu and are
Okay.
Hindu. And so being exposed to that and this idea of reincarnation, something
Yeah.
again, blend in. So
Right.
this lecture on the reincarnation, they talked about this psychiatrist, Brian Weiss, and he wrote the book, Many Lives, Many Masters.
Mm.
I was watching some video clips of young kids that were being interviewed, and all of these stories being corroborated from
Wow.
like when they'd go back and look at newspaper clippings and things like that, that this actually happened, or kids that could then spontaneously start to speak another language. So I
Mm.
was blown away by
Mhm.
that particular weekend. I was staying with a friend of mine who I didn't typically stay with because my regular friend had her cousin staying with her. So I go back to his place and I'm like, oh my God, I just, learned about this. And there's this book, Many Lives, Many Masters. I have to get my hands on it. And then I saw it all of a sudden behind his head on the bookshelf. And he was like, so I'm like, oh my God, you got this book.
You
He's
have the book.
yeah. And he's like, I have never seen this book before in my life. And so it was like this worn out copy. I'm like, can I borrow this? He's like, absolutely, take it. Like I don't even know whose it is. And so I read it in 2 days. Well, one of the
Mm.
that, had led to Brian Weiss's belief in reincarnation. He's a Western
Mhm.
psychiatrist.
Mhm.
Um,
Is he the one that was on Oprah? I feel
he's been on
like
the
I've seen some clips of him on Oprah. My mom actually knew a lot more about him than I ever did, but I know of him. Yeah.
Okay, it's a very easy and fascinating book. He ended up having this client that he named Catherine, who had really debilitating anxiety.
Mhm.
And he started working with her using hypnosis.
Yeah.
With hypnosis, that she jumped into a previous life. But
Wow.
that is what then suddenly led me down this hypnosis path
Mhm.
that we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
And so that also, this idea that I felt like suddenly things are being handed to me, like these universal whisperings and stuff, where this friend of mine never saw this book before, and it's all right on the bookshelf. I mean, there are a lot of different things
Mhm.
that have been influenced by me starting
Yeah.
to. I'm a single mom by choice, and I decided to have my
Mm.
child on my own. Just
Right.
these things when you sort of pause and listen and pay attention. So
Mhm. There's
anyway,
so much empowerment in that of being able to just listen to what you're wanting. And I feel like you hear so many people waiting for the situation to be right. And I feel like I can be like that sometimes where you're like, well, I really want to do this, but I can't, you know.
mhm. Yep,
But what if you could? What if there's a reason that you're being called to it? And like just making a change and seeing what you can bring into your life, even if it's small steps, not having a whole child or going to a course or whatever it is.
absolutely. I think for me, one of the big things that I try to still remember to this day is that, in both of those situations, I didn't let any kind of fear define that because there were fear that was part of both of those decisions, but I just let it be there. And part of those
Yeah.
thing that I listened to.
Yes. I
And
love like the fear is there and I'm still going to do it.
yeah.
That's so
So that was
cool.
cool. And then just to bring it to present day, I did start private practice, solo, and
Yeah.
owning a group practice, which happened kind of on accident. You're
Yeah.
full, taking somebody on, and then it just starts to expand.
Yeah.
And then in the pandemic, we like really blew up and things were really good.
Oh,
Things
yeah.
got really hard. You know, we had experience
Yeah.
in the practice of someone who was instrumental and a coach. And
Really?
it just sort of started again. That's when I realized I was operating from a place of a lot of fear and panic, and like I didn't allow myself to grieve. And so I decided last year I just need to shut this thing down, and I need to give it to myself. With
Yeah.
clients on is this stage that I keep going down this path, just reassess because we can get caught up. Like I feel like midlife is this time that often happens for most people, and you just can keep going.
Midlife is like the client that you really like to work with, right?
It is. And so working with also entrepreneurs and leaders, but midlife where,
Yeah.
well, like, can you give yourself that time? And I know not everybody has that opportunity to just like take a hard pivot. Or I wish that we had something baked in our culture, like a midlife gap year when
Yep.
you're to do that between school and starting.
Yeah. I feel like our culture also doesn't take on breaks as much in general. I know that there's so much more vacation even baked into like just European mindset of you're just out 90 days out of the year probably. And that's just not part of our expectation here in the US.
It's true. We are very much like reward and value the go, 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 and productivity, do more.
You know, just keep busy.
We really see busyness as a virtue. And I think that we then put pressure on ourselves also, like taking a break, and taking off or napping all day. And suddenly we feel a tremendous amount of guilt for that.
Yes.
It does.
Yeah.
It's really hard. I have a client who has some health stuff, but taking some time off to take care of herself was really,
Yeah.
until something else like worse happened, some time off to get some treatment and healing.
Yeah.
So long. And it's just, what, why don't we give ourselves permission? Like when we,
Yeah, I think that makes me think of what you said about the fear-based decision. Like where I can't stop or else this will happen or I will lose this or what will other people think? That fear can be stemmed from so many different things for different people or just all of the above. Especially if, like you said, if they're entrepreneurs, the work that they do is like their baby probably. So it's probably even harder to step back.
Absolutely. I know when I had my group practice and after the death of my clinical director, and that was summer of 2021. And
Yeah.
so we just jumped into action to protect my team. But then everybody left at the start of 2022 and that devastated me because I wanted to leave too. I'm like, I want a fresh start too,
Yeah.
like new energy.
Sounds good to me. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
You couldn't.
but yeah, so giving permission to myself. This early at the end of last year is when I decided to shut everything down with my group practice, and I took a few months off, just seeing a handful of clients during that time. Followed me into solo practice.
Yeah. Didn't happen necessarily the way you wanted it to. And it's one of those places where you look back and it's like, well, I'm glad I made this decision.
Yeah.
Again, put yourself first.
I had a lot of support friends who were just like, it's not failing, to decide you don't want to do this anymore.
They need to hear that this is not failing.
Am I taking a step backwards? I started solo and then I built this 16-person practice, and it was
so big.
Great. It was amazing, but things got really hard for a number of different reasons. And
yeah, that loss sounds really profound. Like such an impact. Like there was the pandemic and then an actual loss of a person that just was what I would imagine would be really emotionally jarring and impactful, but then it's so practically if they're the clinical director at the same time. So it's all just like transplanted into every part of the work that you're doing.
Yeah, it's really really shattered so much of the practice when we
Yeah.
Thank you.
It sounds like we're not happy with how we got here, but we're in a good place right now. Yeah.
That's something that I think as therapists, we know that things happen. I mean, we can't stop those things from happening. But how do we allow ourselves to move through it and to push it away and pretend it's not impacting us, getting stuck in it and
Yeah.
not knowing how to get out?
Do you ever feel like annoyed that you have to take your own advice?
I know. I think most of my close friends are therapists, and I'm so grateful for that.
Oh, yeah. You got all the benefits. You got the wraparound care.
You know,
We just need some physicians and all the people.
You really need like a handyman or something. So what I'm doing.
Can you tell me a little bit about how many kids do you have? You said you're a single mother by choice, right?
Yes, I have a daughter. She's going to be 11 in November.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so that was another decision. It was like one of the best decisions I made because I just wasn't partnered. I felt like I'm more in this idea that maybe a family's not in it for me because I was now in my 40s. So I could have this meltdown where I'm like, gosh, I don't know. I loved my life. Like I had I had the best time, but it wasn't fulfilling when I thought about my future. I'm like, this can't be it.
Yeah.
I honestly think that she would just felt bad for me. So she's like, well, there's no substitute. If you really want to be a mom, then you should find a mom. Sure, you said those words, not realizing I was going to take it and run with
Just
it.
go do it.
Because again, being of Indian descent and she, like, it's not part of the culture. My dad had a harder time with the pretty girl. People will marry you. I was 41 at this time.
Okay.
And he was like, it's not too late. That's what marriage was about. For me, I would have been married long before.
If I just needed a person, then I would have done it.
Exactly. So I went ahead and I did it on my own. My dad came around. I mean, like right away.
I mean, once you see the baby, it's really hard.
I felt like it was very easy for me and things just place with it. The doctor that I selected and I mean, there's so many coincidences. There was like so many coincidences that I don't believe are coincidences. That makes
I love those.
Winks from the universe.
I like that.
So anyways, I just felt like she was meant to be. This was the journey that I was meant to be on. There's some kind of like a settling
alignment or something.
A little like a tingling and everything feels like this is it, and so that's just going on this course. I got pregnant pretty easily with her second try. My daughter, she did have a heart condition. She needed to have surgery when she was full, but she
stressful.
Even with that, I wasn't.
You're like, actually, no.
I think I just like really had faith and I kept care of me. There was something about her energy. A doctor might say, well, yeah, it's because she probably was more calm because she wasn't, I mean, with her heart condition and things like that, maybe not as energetic, that maybe might be. But I'm like, she really grounded me, just her eyes and her demeanor. And so I just felt like fine. She's like reassuring me, I put whatever meaning on it that I felt I needed. And she was really reassuring at that time. She's going to be 11. She's amazing. And so it was also because of having her in my life that I worked harder than I might have worked because it was now not just about me. It's like, it's enough to work hard for me, but now I have a daughter who's relying on me. I want to make sure her life is secure and set up, especially doing this on my own without a partner.
Right.
My family's amazing. My friends have been amazing, but at the end of the day, it is me. And so I wanted to give that to her. So that's also helped with the success of the group practice.
And so then when that shifted, did you reframe that for yourself as this is for her too? This is for me. This is for her. Or did it feel hard to feel like you were stepping away from something that was for her?
It started to feel like it was costing me, like myself. And I could also see it impacting her because I was
going to say that as soon as you said that, I was like, and that just turns right back around.
And I'm like, I can't do this it's not worth it. And financially, it was not as strong as it had once been. We were just with the scramble after the death, the sort of mass resignation. It wasn't personal to me. It was that time period, early 2022, where country was talking about the Great Resignation. It was just people wanted a change. They were and it was never just a business for me. It was always about the relationships and the team. I started pulling back on my client care because I'm like, my employees now are the people I'm going to care for, or to help grow. And so that was so fulfilling and rewarding. But it's the in between like interactions also that really I started to realize are like the glue So I started to feel like we as people, it's kind of like a mosaic, and we can be the top and realize how much
Yes.
those conversations
Yeah.
brings up the spontaneous connection.
It's connection, relationship building. Oh, it's so valuable. Yeah. There's a reason I was really excited to start a podcast. I miss talking to people,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
after being I was in a university counseling center setting. And just one of the things that kept me there for so long was the relationships, was the connections and those conversations. Silly rule that we're putting into place or what we're having to do. It matters,
Or you got to grab a coffee.
Yes.
Yes. It's hard. And so with the pandemic and everyone working from home, it suddenly started to feel like we were all our own individual tiles again. And like, okay, what's the benefit of the group if we're not? I mean, we had our meetings and consultations and things, but social outings also, I tried to be really good about that, that we could all get to know each other beyond
Yep.
just the clinical work that we do. It started to feel like a job because I got fed and rewarded. And, that was my own pay, was my interactions with the team and seeing everybody else also connect with each other, with my team. They worked for me, but I know that they stayed with me. I had a great retention before 2022, like nobody left. And I know I did that. I had that because they could feel that I worked for them.
It makes a difference when you feel like the people that are taking care of you are actually taking care of you, or that are like responsible for you or also taking care of you. It's a distinction there.
Yeah, I loved it. And so that's going back to solo. Now I get to focus on the clinical work again.
Yeah. How's that been?
It's been slow. So I'm no longer taking insurance. That was another thing that had happened.
Yep.
Practice is we had
Yeah.
back audits from United
Oh.
Healthcare, and I know they're in the news all the time now, and I'm like, thank goodness. It's sort of like they're getting exposed for the way that they do business. So profit first rather than people. And so anyway, that was also because it felt like a money grab, but it was just, I felt really vulnerable taking insurance, and I people want to use insurance, especially in a city like Chicago. I know that there's other places in the country where it's pretty much the standard that people don't use insurance to pay for therapy services.
Yeah.
But that's okay because I feel like it's more intentional.
Yeah. More intentional
Yeah.
and
Focus on
build.
my clients, and I don't have to worry about getting claims denied or the threat of collapse, where it's like, we're going to take money back from you, even though you've already done the session, even though the client even will report that they've been helped. It was a game I no longer wanted to play because I felt like it was more about covering your own ass rather than about taking care of the clients. More, kind of way too.
Right. And we get into this to help people. And when you feel like you're doing that and you're getting punished, that just sucks.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to talk about the hypnosis. Can we come back to it?
Let's do it.
When did you start learning about it? Is it like a certification thing? How does that work?
I told you that I read that book, Many Lives, Many Masters. I was just blown away by it. It really changed how I even viewed life. And I got so much reassurance from that book. Suddenly everything felt okay, if that makes sense. I was really interested in learning hypnosis. If I could do this in any way with some of my clients, just to get to like layers where we're not, when we were in talk therapy, we're talking about things that are in our conscious awareness. When we are in hypnosis, we can reach a layer that's beyond what we're consciously thinking about. Talk about experiences when we're talking. I took hypnosis, the level 1 and 2 training through the American Society of Clinical Hypnosis, immediately following the certification I got with Holistic Health. So I got that in 2007, I think.
The timing tracks, because I could just picture you feeling so great at that class and then reading the book and then being like, well, here, I'm going to go do that.
Here's my credit card.
No, let's just go. If we're doing it, we're going all in.
It is. And especially then I just had learned about like how our mental health also, I mean, that focus of the Institute of Integrative Nutrition was not on mental health, but I took it and applied it to mental health and how it is that I can help people with their mental health through these lifestyle changes and behaviors as well. So here I am now already broadening my scope and how it is that I'm conceptualizing people and how they can take the best care of themselves to the foods that they eat, as well as the activities that they engage in, the relationships that they're a part of. And now I wanted to add hypnosis to broaden it even further. And so that's when I got trained in hypnosis and I started integrating it into my practice right away.
Wow. So How do you like to explain it to people who are coming? I would just love to hear, like, what do you mean by hypnosis?
That's a good question. I feel like people think about hypnosis through what they might see on TV or movies, where it feels a lot more like mind control and I'm
Yeah.
sneaking my way in and I'm going to influence your thoughts and I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
things you don't
Or
want to happen.
yeah.
That is not what hypnosis is.
Okay.
It's not therapy
Stage
hypnosis.
hypnosis. Okay.
And with performance hypnosis, the hypnotist knows how to pick up people who are going to be really good at
Like
doing
responsive.
exactly. And so they
Oh,
be more voyeuristic. They'll ask people in the audience I need some volunteers. If you're raising your hand right away, that selects for people who are willing to maybe go and make a fool of themselves, provide some good chuckles to the audience. And then they can start to narrow down and select from those few volunteers that he invited or she invited on stage and start to narrow down like who may be a really good person to finally select. It could be even things like imagine that you're in a bathtub full of ice water and see who might kind of have some goosebumps. And then they'll be like, okay, they're suggestible. If they don't have
interesting.
those goosebumps, then they'll send them back to sit in the audience and thank them for their time. So that's how they do it. And find somebody who's already exhibitionistic. And so
Okay.
somebody who's willing to do that, somebody who's suggestible, and then they've got like their perfect sort of candidate to make them bark like a dog or cluck like a chicken,
Right.
things that people will talk about.
Yeah.
Hypnosis is not mind control. You have to be willing.
That's what I've heard is that
Yeah.
there's consent involved, that even though it looks like people are doing weird things, they wouldn't do it unless they had agreed on some level.
So there has to be trust there has to be a willingness and a surrender. There has to be some suggestibility. And 95% of the population are good candidates for hypnosis.
Smart.
Hypnotizable, but most likely that will not be you because 95% of the people are.
Yeah, that's a lot. Do we call it like therapeutic hypnosis? Like, what's the term?
I still just call it hypnosis, can call it hypnotherapy.
Hypnotherapy. I like that.
Yeah. And
I
so
was curious. I'm trying to remove some of the stuff that you told me about the stage hypnosis and get back into the hypnotherapy realm. So some of the stuff that you were saying about the willingness and everything, like that translates to both.
yeah, so those things are similar in terms of that willingness piece, but the difference with the therapeutic hypnosis, you've got your client who's willing and is open to doing it. People who are very influential and may use some of these techniques. Hypnosis is, again, you've got to have consent from the client. What hypnosis is it's when you're in a trance and all of us are in trance all the time. We just don't, we are driving our car and we're zoning out and just like on autopilot, we are in a trance.
Yeah.
We are scrolling on our phone on social media and are playing a game. Like we are in a trance. And so even eating.
So yeah, totally elsewhere in a lot of these cases. Yeah. This morning, I have to drop off my kids at two different buildings. It's all in the same vicinity. So I dropped off my daughter, and then as I was dropping off my son, the gist is that the shoes she was supposed to be wearing were in the van, and I didn't know that. So I had to go back and drop them off after I dropped him off. And as I was leaving, I was so engrossed in thinking about my son and the drop off that even though I knew I needed to like go do something else, I just felt like I was in a whole different place. Like feeling my brain shift back to this is while I'm driving, which is concerning. But like I remember being like, yes, I made it all the way over here. Oh, yes, that's right. I need to go. That's why I'm going and I'm turning and having to like, I felt such a distinct shift into away from that location into the present again. And just, I don't know, it feels like kind of what you're talking about. Just like, I felt like I was in a trance. I felt like I was not in my body in that moment.
And that's a lot of what it is. And where space and time,
More pliable.
that linear sort of process, we kind of almost disconnect from space and time as well. And that's why if you're scrolling on your phone, then you can suddenly look up and an hour and a half has gone by. I don't know where that time went because it certainly didn't feel like an hour and a half went by. So those are some examples of being in a trance. And hypnosis is now just intentionally going into a trance. And again, the hypnotherapist is more like a guide. So if you think about doing meditation and you have someone guide you in meditation, so that's all it is. But you can also do meditation on your own. Hypnosis is all self-hypnosis. A guide, and I serve as a guide to help you get to that
Okay.
where you're in a trance.
How would you say it's different than meditation?
So the difference, it feels a lot like meditation. I think about meditation where you are creating more like a stillness in your mind or a clearing. And hypnosis is where you're creating that clearing and that space,
Okay.
and is something called a post-hypnotic suggestion. And
Okay.
what the mind can now sort of like receive and hold on to and take with it once the hypnosis.
I love what you're doing with your hands. They're almost like you were stitching something in. Like the way you do that with your fingers, I felt like you're just like, oh, I'm just going to like add this little stitch and then, for later. Like I went to a training on hypnosis, but it was when I was at my university counseling center. It was someone who had done like the first level of training and was sort of walking us through it. And so I feel like I got some sort of sense of what it's like. And at the same time, I sort of totally could, and this is years later, but like I could walk away being like, I still feel like I know nothing. I don't know if I'm one of the 5%. Maybe we could talk about like what makes the 5% different. But we tried to do some self-hypnosis and I don't know what I was doing. One person in there fell asleep. A lot of people did fine, I'll tell you that. Like it wasn't, but I distinctly remember one person fell asleep and I sort of felt like I didn't know. I was just sitting there, but it was a group thing. And maybe if I was one-on-one, it would have felt different.
Yeah, I've done group hypnosis, like been a participant in group hypnosis. I find it helpful for I find other people distracting, like little coughs, or I've had people fall asleep where I'm suddenly hearing snoring.
Or if you're an anxious person, or like I was recently diagnosed with ADHD, so now I'm just like, maybe I couldn't really focus in that moment, like with all the people around, like that your mind just couldn't really settle or enter that place as easily. Or someone who overthinks of like, am I doing this right?
So when you go into hypnosis, you start with induction. And induction is just helping a person to get into the trance. I usually have people visualize some things with their body and get themselves more and more relaxed, or release muscles, release things that they don't need to hold on to at this moment, and creating some sense of trust. But some people, I mean, you can do the whole pendulum swinging on something and it puts you in a trance-like state.
Yeah.
It can be, there's some different ways that you can, there's like almost a circuitry, I guess, in the mind that kind of like allows you to go into like switch into trance also. There's some techniques people will use using their eyes and rolling their eyes up. It just may take a little bit longer to do that. And if you're not trusting, like, oh, I really don't believe this, is this really working? Like, you are absolutely not going to go into trance if you're evaluating it every step of the way or have opinions about it. And so what hypnosis does is it starts to get past, like we normally in our waking world are in like kind of beta waves with our brain. And so it takes you into alpha or even theta. So it's taking you under the surface of consciousness, which is that beta level, into the alpha or the theta levels. And you can start to fall asleep and you can kind of hear the TV going.
Yeah.
The visuals in your mind are also kind of swimming around a little. That is that stage where you're in alpha, beta.
Yeah.
Oh, like that could never happen. I was first in this place, but now suddenly I'm in that place, like with the dreaming. Does that make sense?
I think so. Yeah. I think I'm also struck just personally by memories of like myself falling asleep around people and still sort of listening to the conversation and saying something that made absolutely no sense because I was in that space. And I'm wondering if I was in alpha or theta waves.
That's
Like
exactly it.
I have distinct memories of doing that because I've always been more of like a morning person. And so I've often tried to stay up late. And so I will like be sitting there and I will be fighting sleep and I'll come in and out. And I have like a very clear memory of one time being at a friend's house and she had visitors over and it was even more like I was so anxious about being rude. And I was weirdly following the conversation and I said something in response to what they said. And they were like, what? That woke me up faster than anything. It was so, oh my gosh, that's taking me back. Like, I just still think about that. I still remember they were saying something about, my friend was saying something that she had done. And I made a joke about like, in my state, I said, that's not what the camera says. Like, and I was like, what? you're talking about. And just thank God it was sensible enough because the person was, because I was trying to stay awake and pretend that I was not sleeping. That's the other thing. So someone else there was like, oh no, she's saying that like, if there had been cameras, the evidence would be otherwise. And I was like, that's exactly what I was going for, but I have no idea how I grasped that in that moment because I was clearly out of it.
Absolutely. And that is exactly what it is. Like you're in this like different state. You're not quite here. You're a little bit here, but you're not quite fully here. Your mind is wandering.
Mhm.
So in that state of mind, there's a lot more that's possible. As you can even are you talking about in your own example, like things are not necessarily logically flowing, but there's possibility that's available now because you're not poo-pooing things away and like, oh, that could never happen, or having opinions and judgments and biases show up. And so that's where hypnosis works. Now, hypnosis is all about what's happening in our mind, but we have a lot of evidence now how our mind and our body are just
Connected, yeah.
so connected point.
Yes.
And so we can even think about how, like, if we've got a really important presentation to give next week and we feel we have some presentation or speaking anxiety, then we can just think about it and already our heart starts to race and our palms get sweaty. If we suddenly hear a song that takes us back in time, it's like, oh my God, I love this song.
Yeah, you feel it in every fiber of your being.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or an old photo and this memory comes flooding back and we can feel it. Or if we're watching that movie and it's a scary movie and suddenly like somebody comes jumping out from the shadows with like an axe, then we're going to jump a little bit. We startle and we feel it after, but
Yeah.
our body doesn't know the difference.
I have the worst startle reflex. I'm really bad at those movies.
Too much. I'm like,
I take them home with me.
then it'll just start to like the certain scenes keep replaying.
Yeah.
I also know.
And the way it made me feel.
Absolutely. But we do feel things that are beyond what is actually happening to us in the moment. And that is what differentiates us from all other animals. We're very similar to all other animals in a way, like the fight, flight, response, fight, flight, freeze, fonts, and we're also very different in that our mind can go elsewhere. And so we capitalize or leverage that in hypnosis by taking our mind to a place where things are possible. We insert something new that already the person wants to do because the willingness has to be there.
Yeah.
So hypnosis can help us like give a little nudge in a direction you already want to go. I find that that's to be one of the most important criteria in whether hypnosis will be successful or not. Because even if they're hypnotizable, if they're coming in because they are saying, well, like my partner really wants me to quit smoking.
Yeah.
They're saying I need to quit smoking. So like they just want some sort of magical solution that can help for a little while. But the moment they get stressed or they're out with friends, drinking or whatever it might be, like they'll reach for the cigarette because they didn't own the change for themselves. They're not yet ready.
I feel like that translates to a lot of the work that we do in general. What do you find that you're using it the most for in your practice?
So I've interwoven it into the therapy work that I do, kind of game for that, and helping with anxiety. Also worked with fears. Sometimes people may get some clarity around it if they're having a hard time making a decision around something. I've used it where people can connect with what I would call the wise self or inner guide. It can help with overcoming some trauma where they can start to create some distance, like they're watching things that have happened to them on a screen so that they're starting to see it from a new perspective and distance themselves and process it in a way that's more helpful to help them through it. I also get hypnosis referrals for more standalone hypnosis, and a lot of that has to do with habit change, like smoking, vaping, reducing sugar, reducing drinking, changing the relationship with something, whether it's eliminating it entirely or reducing it and like putting more like boundaries around it. I'm only going to have 2 drinks and on the weekends, maybe socially with friends. And so like eliminating the solo drinking on a Tuesday, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So changing the relationship with it. And that could be anything from giving a presentation to, sports like golf.
Yeah, golf. The ultimate mental sport.
I know.
I know there's so much with sports psych in general, but it feels like you hear so much of the mentality the most around golf. That's my perception. I'm also married to a golfer. So what are you going to do? I told him, I'm like, I get to do a podcast with someone who I know she does hypnosis with golfers, and his eyebrows went way up. He was like, all right then.
People take their golf game so seriously.
Seriously.
I had like a
Yes.
client who finally started seeing me for therapy because he's like, I knew I needed help with my golf game was going off. Like that used to be my therapy.
Oh, yes.
I didn't have that available anymore. So I'm like, I needed to be here. And
I love that. Self-awareness.
And my dad plays golf.
Yeah.
It's a little funny story because I had a client who was seeing me for reasons that had nothing to do with golf. He was for marriage issues.
Okay.
He had a big presentation coming up. And so he asked if hypnosis would help. And I said, absolutely. We did it. He did this big presentation where normally he'd be sweating and he'd like, just feeling really clammy and just all these hot. That it was like cool as a breeze. He did it in front of hundreds of people and it went beautifully.
Yeah.
And one of them was his golf game. So I did it. And it worked. And so he was like really impressed with that. And I was telling my dad, who loves golf, he has a lot of different hobbies that are his therapy. People take their golf game so seriously. You should market for that. People will come see you. They will spend money to get their golf game better.
I think so.
And Dad, I can do it for you too, if you'd like, to help with your game. And I was okay.
Classic dad.
No.
So funny. Not for me. Like, oh my gosh. Yes. That's so funny.
No, he wasn't even willing to entertain it for free. I just like, all right.
Funny. So thinking too, because I only recently learned in the past year about brain spotting, but did you do that group brain spotting demo? Okay. Did it feel similar to hypnosis for you as someone who practices hypnotherapy? How did it feel for you? Because I knew there was a different theory.
Yeah.
As I'm looking back on it, it sort of felt like we were kind of going into those waves.
Yeah. I felt very relaxed, but I did not feel. So I've tried EMDR also in the past. The way that my brain works, I'm a verbal processor.
That's me.
And so I couldn't, like on demand, get into that space. In the middle of the night, be thinking about it, but not when I'm sort of in a session.
Yes.
And it was also a group setting. So I personally didn't feel, I think, what is intended with brain spotting, but it's absolutely about trance.
Yeah.
EMDR also sort of sets you in this place where you are in trance, but they are working bilaterally, again, with unless I'm not trained in EMDR, so I can't.
Yeah.
I know that there's like a bilateral stimulation supposed to help too and processing. But I can say that trance piece is the overlap that I'm aware of. There's stuff I'm not familiar with.
And I'm hoping to get someone on here to talk about brain spotting as well. The overlap is notable. And there's so much overlap and so many different types of therapies that it really is about what you want to do, your intention, what fits for you. Like you said, even that, you and I were in there, we saw some profoundly impacted people emotionally, but I don't know if it wasn't that impactful for me compared to what I saw for some people in the room. But I'm also a verbal processor. I'm also an intellectualizer. So I think it probably touched on some stuff, but again, group setting versus individual versus the fit for the person.
Absolutely.
So one more question I think about hypnosis. How does it look when you incorporate it with kind of your long-term clients versus more, I'm just here for hypnosis?
The hypnosis, I'll start with that because it is the easier one to address. People come for a standalone concern that they want to address through hypnosis. I do an intake with them for one session, and then I really customize things so that I'm addressing things and using the client's words. I want it to resonate as much with the clients as possible.
Yes.
And in hypnosis, you're supposed to frame things in a positive way. Okay. So instead of, it's like, I don't want to eat sugar anymore, or whatever. Then, and you will no longer eat sugar or sweets. Like, it's not going to hear the no, you hear the not eat sugar. So You have to find ways to frame things in the positive because that's what the brain will pick up on.
Yeah.
Not doing something anymore, but what would you be doing instead? Or how will you be feeling when you choose to, focus on
Okay.
something else?
Mm-hmm.
Those are some of the things that I do. I do the intake and then I do a couple of hypnosis sessions as much as needed, but I suggest 2 at least. I
Okay.
record the sessions. I will give that to clients so that they can
Mm.
also listen. I will also do what's a post-hypnotic suggestion, which oftentimes what I'll do is I'll suggest that people maybe like press their thumb and index finger or middle finger together. But it doesn't have to be that. It could even just be like just any kind of movement, like rolling back the shoulders or giving a little nod as a way of then eliciting that feeling again.
Okay.
And so I'll have people practice that. And it just takes like a few seconds. But if they listen to the hypnosis session, it's around 20 to 30 minutes in length.
Okay.
And then I'll do a follow-up. And some people find that they're helped after just one session and they can take the recording with them. I do again suggest at least a minimum of 2 though, just to reinforce, and then we can use the second session to either add on to what we did in the first session or if we need to somehow or just reinforce. Do you have questions first about that in terms of the standalone?
No, I thought you put it perfectly.
So when I weave it into sessions in which I'm already working with clients longer term, I will introduce hypnosis as an option and explain a little bit about what it is. And since they're coming to me for therapy and not coming to me for hypnosis, then, it's something that I may then introduce after some time as something that may help them with some anxiety or fear or some OCD tendencies. And weave it in. But I always see it more as an invitation because they're not coming to me necessarily for hypnosis.
Yeah,
Some clients are interested and they'll want to choose working with me because I can weave that into the work we do. But a lot of times people will find me for therapy services. And then I may take I may do full sessions like I would with a standalone, or I might just do little things and explore and, help them to explore under hypnosis where maybe something is stemming from, but then bring them out and we talk about it and then I may take them back into hypnotic state. The more you do hypnosis is if you do it for yourself, the easier it is to get into that state. You can almost do it at will and train your body to do it with certain kind of like a process. Sometimes it could just be a word, it could be as simple as now just a word that can just suddenly take you back into a pretty deep state of trance.
Wow. Okay. That sounds kind of familiar in terms of what I've heard. When I went to that one training, I think the person who did it talked about using it whenever she flies because of her discomfort with flying. Just having it in some ways just as another tool for yourself to take care of yourself sounds really nice.
It is. And one of the things that I really like about hypnosis is that there's no side effects. You're not putting anything in your body. And I love to find ways for myself as well as to help my clients find ways to do that where they don't feel like they are dependent on something external to them. And that's even including me talking them through and guiding them through hypnosis. If I can help clients to learn it for themselves, then they don't need anything external.
Is there anyone who it's not a good fit for? I know there's the 5%, but is there anything that you would want people to know of maybe not?
Yeah, I've had clients where maybe dissociation was already a problem for them. And so, to put them in that state of dissociation, it's more of an escape. It's not, they may have some trust issues with it, with the dissociation. It could be associated with some trauma and candidates for.
So that's the main one, you'd say?
I would say the main one. One thing too, people who are highly suggestible, just to be mindful that when coming out of hypnosis, you put things back in place. I had once gone to a training where it was a doctor, she was an OB-GYN, and she used hypnosis with the women that she were giving birth.
Okay.
One of the things that she had once done is she had one woman visualize being, I think, by a stream of water and maybe drinking from that cool stream of water. And that really helped to calm her down. But to properly bring her back out of it, she brought her out of hypnosis.
Yeah.
Suddenly this woman is just constantly asking for water.
Oh.
Yeah. And so she's like, oh my gosh, I didn't sort of put that back. And she was bringing that desire for water out with her now post hypnosis. And so she had to put her back in hypnosis and like close that part up. So
So what would have happened if she had not put it back?
yeah, I mean, it was just this like she was constantly asking for water. She was at the hospital, so they could see that right away, and she
Yeah.
admitted to it right away.
Yeah.
So that's why also the follow-ups are good to schedule. I always will follow up within a couple of days, like how are things going there?
Yeah.
Those things are important.
Okay.
Follow up.
Okay. So would she have just been perpetually thirsty or just like warm? Like what would her body have kind of like switched it off at some point? Do we know? What would
No,
have,
I don't know, like because this again, I was
because you're a responsible clinician who would follow up and find out and you would take care of it.
Absolutely. I think it's more just that mindfulness that's there. And I
Mhm.
learned about it only because she had experienced it and shared her
Okay.
experience with all of us.
She was like, don't do this. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. I got you.
It's not necessarily something that you would see with most people, but
Yeah.
some people who are just very highly suggestible who may
Yes.
take that with them post.
Okay. So what would you say clients should look for if they're looking for hypnosis from someone? Should it be with like a mental health provider? Definitely someone who's certified? What should they look for?
Yeah. So I will say that not every reason for seeking hypnosis needs to be from a mental health provider. I
Okay.
would say habit change. You
Okay.
could see anybody who just has good experience with hypnosis, has had good training. I went and got trained with the American Society of Clinical Hypnosis because they're required that you have a graduate degree in helping profession and that
Okay.
it be used in conjunction with the license that you already have. It could be social workers, it could be physicians, it could be dentists, it could be psychologists. But my mom couldn't go in and get trained with
Yep.
the American Society of Clinical Hypnosis,
Okay.
ASH for short, ASCH. So I also know people who do hypnosis who don't have any background in mental health,
Mhm.
and they can be effective with. So my daughter, I actually met somebody who does hypnosis with kids, and she does not have a mental health background. She had offered to provide hypnosis for my daughter who is afraid of heights. And so
Oh.
and my daughter was just like, oh, it was really cool. She does climbing as activity,
Oh, cool.
activity. And but she can only get so far. And then she's like, okay,
Mm.
back down again. Like, that's it. I'm good.
Do-do-do-do.
And so she hasn't, like, it's really tough for her to go to the top of the higher walls. And so my daughter was game for trying this.
Mm.
So she's like, I felt like I was actually there. And so it was, and she's going to do a second session actually later this week,
Okay.
like help, because we're just in the middle of this now. But she's someone who doesn't have a mental health background. And I feel okay with my daughter seeing her for this particular reason. Just
Okay.
wants to get to the top of the wall.
Okay.
I would say if there is a mental health component to why you're going,
Mhm.
it would be important to see someone with a mental health background that
Mhm.
they can open up a box of worms and again, not know how to put things back together. So I do
Yes.
try to have, again, like network with other people who just do hypnosis because that can be
Mhm.
without intending it. Even sometimes for the simple things that seem like just climbing a wall, like it doesn't seem to have trauma interwoven in that, but
Mhm.
and so the other thing, though, is that people get trained based on their profession. So it may be that you go to see the dentist,
Mhm.
a lot of like anxiety about seeing the dentist. And
Mhm.
so a trained dentist may then help you calm down and relax to be in
Yeah.
this chair or giving birth, gynae,
Mhm. Who
suggest
had a
water. She was an OB-GYN, so a medically trained
Mhm.
physician, but she used to do it to help women with natural childbirth or about
Mhm.
birth.
Okay. So before we wrap up, can we kind of just get a sense of like overall the work that you like to do? So I know you like to work with single mothers by choice, midlife, and business and entrepreneurs. Kind of high achieving, would you say? Or Ooh,
Burnout, yeah, it's the high achieving, like, so people who are just have been pushing themselves and pushing themselves and pushing themselves and doing all the things and starting to feel like the burnout results from
yes.
that.
That's just good work. I love that. So where are you licensed?
I am licensed in Illinois, but I am also, as a psychologist, I am part of PsyPact,
Mhm.
which allows me to work with clients from other states who are participating in PsyPact. If ever a client was interested to find out if they're not in Illinois and they were interested in working with me, They can find out if their state is included by going to the website, which is impact.com. Just all of the states that are included, and then states that haven't begun.
I love that site. I always just Google SciPact map anytime I just need to pull it up, because they have like that handy map that makes it very fast, because you just find your state really quickly. So based on that, you see in person and virtual, or just virtual now? Are you exclusively online?
I have been this year exclusively online, but I did just decide to get an office with a colleague a week in Chicago. Excited about earlier. We're people. So it's like
people. Yes.
Exactly.
Do you have openings right now?
I do have openings right now.
Yay.
So yeah, if people are interested in seeing me, then they can email me.
Yeah.
I work from like more of an acceptance and commitment therapy.
Yes.
Accept. Obviously, it's in the name, but this acceptance, like, we cannot avoid pain, and it's learning how to increase flexibility and increase tolerance for those painful situations as they come up in life. So we can move through it with some intention and really like holding on to the things that we value most. Like using that as sort of our guiding light. Staying committed and taking action and intentionally leaning in discomfort when that discomfort serves us. That's how growth happens. And plus, I love using metaphors and
oh my God.
Yes. Both of them just to
Metaphor
help
person.
So I mostly come from that. I have been trained in systems theory, and so I also I've done couples therapy, but it's really about people in the context in which they like what shapes them as a person, and I see it within themselves, with their relationships, also beliefs and values, just their culture, just what's going on in the world, which is a lot right now, and all of these things, how they shape us, our generation, our just identity, all of it.
Your whole self, all of it. And not taking insurance, correct?
I'm not taking insurance.
And your current fee is?
So for an intake, it's $250, and then my fees for sessions is $224.
Okay.
So I do also provide courtesy billing just to make things easier, where then a client, they just pay for the service, but then I submit all of the paperwork so that they can get some reimbursement from insurance companies if they have out-of-network benefits that cover it.
Okay. Are you a coffee or tea person?
Coffee. I'm a coffee person. I went to my parents' house because my parents make good Indian tea.
Is it chai or is it something else?
Chai. Yep, they do.
When I went to India, we drank so much chai and it was amazing.
Oh, I didn't know you went to India.
I was converted to chai love. But I swear, when you buy chai, though, it just the bags, like, it's so not the same. Like, you need it's just tea. Like, I want the milk, I want the sugar, like, I want the love.
Oh, it's different spices and things that go into it. Like the Indian word for it, but just like not coriander. Is that what I'm trying to think?
It might. I feel like I've heard that before.
Yeah, it's a lychee is what they call it in India, but cloves and things like that.
Yeah.
You gotta
it's like milk. It all like simmers together, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Simmer in the love. All that good stuff. And do you have any pets?
I do. You heard me like, she's gonna start barking right back.
I think that was before we started recording. Yeah. That was fun. What kind do you have?
She's a mix between a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel and a Bichon Frise.
Wow.
There's a term Cavachon.
And so one of the things I'm just curious about is, what do you like nerd out about? Is there just something that you're just like super into or like to share with people that your clients wouldn't normally know about you?
This year I'll say that quitting the group practice and getting myself, I have been reading like crazy. I'm like, I want to list those books now, fiction as well as nonfiction, and things have been helping me with the direction that I want to go professionally. But oh my gosh, fiction, it's just like this great escape, and
it's wonderful.
Introduced me to romantasy fiction.
I love those, both psychological thrillers and fantasy and romantasy, all that stuff. It's so fun.
It's like it's the best escape.
Yeah. One of the reasons I gave up reading to the extent that I love to read while I was in grad school is because I was like, that is all I will do. What are you reading right now?
So I just finished the last with Silver Flames. I just finished that.
That one's long.
That one.
Yeah. That one's got such good trauma stuff in there. I like the trauma stuff in that one was pretty good.
Rarely read the acknowledgement section of a book. In that particular book, and she did talk about how so much of the character of Nesta and the trauma that Nesta had gone through, like she really based a lot of Nesta based on her own life and some what she'd
Mhm.
learned from therapy. And
Wow.
that's what she wove into that book, constant
Yes.
stuff and moved through it. It's like,
Yeah.
wow, it's not like therapy.
Yeah, I know there was some stuff in there where you're like, all right.
I know.
Yeah. Or I often do audiobooks, especially these days with little kids. So I don't often get the acknowledgement. Sometimes I get some afterwards or whatever. Do you have like a pet peeve that you see out there?
No, I mean, I've got a lot of things that I'd like to see change in our
Mhm.
system for mental health care. I do not feel like our mental health care supports the mental health providers very well. And I know we also don't see it supporting the clients in general very well either with accessibility and things is being taken over by corporations. And
Mhm.
that sort of power and the work is sort of moving away from just about the clinician and the client. And I know that this also happened with the healthcare field in general. My dad is a retired physician. And he was going through those changes, I think, starting in the 1990s, and where
Mhm.
less say over how the work is done.
Yeah.
Again, another reason I decided to step out of that system with insurance. AI is still very new. Trying to wrap my mind around it. I can see
Mhm.
it. I find it
Mhm.
helpful for some things. I think it could be a great source of support when
Yeah.
I personally do not think that we should be using the word therapy to call what AI does. And that
No.
I'd like to see a distinction be made and some education
Hmm.
around like, this is what it's really helpful for. You
Yeah.
great tool. And
Yep.
this is what it also where's limitations on.
Oh, yeah.
That's where an actual relationship with a therapist can help.
And do you have a favorite skill that you like to give clients?
A lot of the breathing techniques, usually, because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times people, I mean, anxiety is one of the number one things that
Not
we
breathing.
exactly. And breathing tips is something that I will give to just about every client just to help them
Mm-hmm.
focus or help them calm down if they're feeling a little bit
Yes.
overwhelmed.
It taps into that mind body connection so quickly. I feel like.
It does. And also helping people to recognize, like, this is our life is like a lot of also series of moments that are sort of like woven together, but like how to realize that whatever you're going through right now is not the end of the story. And I think
Mhm.
being the age that I am, I've lived now, I don't know how many cycles of like challenge and difficulty and
Yeah.
just the crumbled or ruined. And then it's like suddenly something really amazing starts to spring to life from that. And so just trusting in that process too. Like we are continuing to just have these cycles. There's opportunity in that for
Mm-hmm.
something new.
Well, Monica, where can people find you if they want to work
So
with you or learn more about you?
yes, my practice is called Sharma Psychology. And that was also, I was going to name it something else. That's you
Mm-hmm.
would yourself.
It rolls
Oh,
off the tongue really nicely. Sharma Psychology.
so I'm going to keep it. It is what I'm owning. It is my last name, Sharma Psychology.
Yes.
And my website is sharmapsych.com. And that is SHARMAPSYCH.com. And people can email me at Monica, and my name is spelled with the K. So it's MONIKA
Mm-hmm.
at sharmapsych.com. And my phone number is 312-955 312-955-1212.
I do this too. I'm laughing with you. I like my business line. I'm like, wait, I felt it. Dr. Monica Sharma, thank you so much for your time today.
You for having me.